Well, we're just a few weeks away from Arizona State football continuing their season playing in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Now I am here with Peach Bowl Incorporated President and CEO Gary Stokin. And Gary, as we've gotten this point, and we're almost a week removed from the selection show and these matchups being set, how is it set in for you knowing that you'll be hosting Arizona State in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl this year?
Well, I really got excited watching Arizona State in the Big 12 championship game. To see the way they started and Scadaboo and Levitt and, the whole team, the way they performed. And then, you start to get into the story of Kenny Dillingham and then the background of being picked last in the Big 12, making the transition from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. Just so many great stories. And then we had conversations, obviously, with Kenny on our press conference, and then afterwards as well with Graham Rossini, and just really quality people. We hosted, I think, 8 people from Arizona State, Michael Chismar, Brian McGinnis on down Monday here in Atlanta to go over the practice sites and the events and Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the hotel, etc. So we had a great meeting, Monday, and myself and a couple of people from my team will be flying down to Austin to go to the Clemson, Texas game to see who wins that, to be on the other side of playing Arizona State. So just a quality matchup with, Arizona State and either one of the two blue bloods, so to speak, of Clemson and Texas to play in our Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl.
Yeah, I want to get to them in a minute, but one more thing on ASU and having them in this game. What's it like on your side of things, having a team that, I think maybe there's gripes here locally. People say, oh, people are just now finding out about this. And typically, in a bowl game like the Peach Bowl, it's blue blood programs. It's programs where the storylines have been followed nationally year round. It hasn't been the case with ASU, and not that it's a bad thing. It's just how it's been. So what's it like having a team that they're kind of nationally exciting. There's people just now finding out about Scadaboo and Kenny Dillingham, and all the screenshots of him on the sideline and his reactions and post-game interviews and things like that that are just different. What's it like to have a team like that that is just sort of rising nationally and hasn't been on that stage in a while?
I think it's very exciting. It's very refreshing. The story is just, so cool from, where they were to now where they're at, from the story of Kenny Dillingham, where he was, now where he's at, Scadaboo, Levitt, where they were and where they're at now. So, as I said, there's so many underlying stories. Arroyo being up for, offense for the Broyles Award. There's so many great stories of not only individual stories, but collective stories of how the team has succeeded. And so for us, it's kind of back to our heritage. I told the story a couple times this week that, back in 1970, when Frank Kush was number 8 in the country and Arizona State at the time couldn't get into one of the big bowls, so to speak, the rose, the sugar, the cotton, the orange. And we were founded in 1968. So there was only like 9 bowl games. And Peach Bowl reached out, brought Frank Kush and Arizona State here. It rained in the first quarter, sleeted in the second, snowed in the third quarter, iced in the fourth quarter. Arizona State won 48-26. And I remember Vince Dooley telling me that, with his brother, Bill Dooley was the coach of Carolina. He said, Gary, I've never been so cold in all my life. He said, I had to leave the game early. My own brother was coached on the other side with North Carolina. And then out of that, I told this story this week to a lot of people in the valley there, that the Phoenix people that attended that game were freezing, but they enjoyed themselves. And they said, hey, if Arizona State's so good and we can't get into one of the big bowls and we're playing in bowls, they're so cold, why don't we start a bowl game? And so the people in the valley started to meet with the Peach Bowl people about, how do you do this? And out of that arose the Fiesta Bowl. So to a large extent, a lot of this story, I told somebody yesterday, the headline of this whole trip for Arizona State should be the phoenix rising out of the ashes. And that's basically what happened. And I did promise Kenny and Graham that we would have 72 degrees in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, in the dome there at Mercedes-Benz Stadium for this game. So they didn't have to bring their winter clothes.
Yeah, no sleet, no rain, no snow. I'm sure the guys
Yeah, that's
will
right.
enjoy that. We're not used to it out here at all. It's like 55 in the mornings, and most of us are
Yeah,
got ski jackets on. So I'm sure it's the same
yeah.
over there. Looking at, the first round matchup with Clemson and Texas. So how on your end do you navigate knowing, okay, we have one team, it's the first year with a bye like this, obviously with the 12 team playoff. Now you already said you're going to go watch them, you're going to go see them play. What's it like just knowing that, you're going to see a bowl type game at a home field in Texas in Austin, and you're going to see, just how this plays out? Like, how does that work?
There's been a tremendous amount of meetings and information change hands between my staff and the CFP and the other New Year's Six bowl games in the CFP, as well as other schools. And so a lot of work put into this first 12 team CFP playoff. We had, give you an example, we had 30 people in on Tuesday with Texas and Clemson both at the same time, and we just split up. The Clemson people would go to the stadium while the Texas people went to the practice sites, and and they hadn't even played yet, right? So, but you got to plan and execute an event, and so, ironically enough, both Texas and Clemson have played in Mercedes-Benz this season. Clemson opened up with Georgia in our Aflac kickoff game that we put on, and in the SEC championship, Texas played Georgia, and so ironically enough, again, whoever wins that game will be in the same locker room as they were for the kickoff game and SEC. So, you can't write some of this stuff. You couldn't plan this at the beginning of the season, but both teams have been to Atlanta, so they know the stadium. Both. I know Sarkeesian from when he was at Alabama, when we had Alabama in our kickoff game and our bowl game. Obviously, Dabo really well because Clemson's been in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl more than any other team in the country. And they've played in a lot of our kickoff games. They're not far away, obviously, geographically. So, we can't go wrong with Arizona State and the great story they have and the great team they have being Big 12 champs, and either an ACC champ in Clemson or a Texas team that's ranked, in the top five.
So with that too, obviously it being the first year of the 12 team playoff, there's been so much talk about the format. We're not going to dive into all of that. I think those are discussions that'll continue to go on. It's just how the nature of the landscape is.
Yep.
But in your eyes, how interesting is it seeing that the way it is set up, you have a four seed in Arizona State that in all likelihood, Texas or Clemson, they will not be favored in that game. So does that, I don't know if that changes anything, but what's it like, or what does it maybe say about how interesting this format is that, just having a bye doesn't mean you're going to be the favorites, and that a team that doesn't get a bye doesn't mean they're not a top 14 like a Texas, who basically most of the year has been in the top five, top six.
I think it's one of the unintended consequences that, whenever you start something new, there's going to be unintended consequence. I don't care what you do. And, I think the commissioners went into this when they created this format and said, we want the conference championship games, A, to matter,
Mhm.
and B, to hold a big opportunity for whoever wins them. So we're going to grant them a bye. And, you can see, obviously, that makes a lot of sense when you're drawing it up. Now, in reality, you start to look at, okay, and I know they'll discuss this because, you always look at what I call the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
Whatever you want to do, whatever you did good, you want to do better. Whatever you did bad, you want to do good. And whatever you did ugly, you want to cut out. And so they'll analyze all this and look at this and say, okay, do we do the top 12 automatic qualifiers? Do we have the conference champions still mean something? Because they make a lot of money on conference championship games. And
Mhm.
so, does that conference champion automatically get a bid? May not get a buy, but they get a bid. All those type of things will be looked at by the commissioners. Now, we still have 1 year left in the original 12-year contracts, and so they can't change anything necessary for next year.
Mhm.
But when they start the new iteration of the new CFP playoff in 2026, they're going to take the learnings from this year and next year and really put something together that, probably addresses those.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly well said. That's what I've been saying to people behind closed doors and stuff. It's, hey, this is all learning experiences. There's always going to be, as you said earlier, unintended consequences of changing a format, and it's just awesome that there is this format where you have 12 teams. You'd probably argue 10 of them were the top 10 teams in the country. Two of them maybe weren't, maybe were, and that's okay. Like it's still an opportunity. If you were the 11th best team, more than likely you weren't winning the national championship anyways. No knock on whoever finished 11th, but that's just kind of how it is in the nature of the sport. So I see that.
And then
Overall,
again, it is sports, and just like we
yeah.
talked about Arizona State in the beginning, if everybody started the season based on what the media predicted Arizona State,
Hmm.
they wouldn't even go into a bowl game, right?
Hmm.
So sports, that what's great about sports is you get the opportunity to compete. And if you're in a 12-team playoff, I was just watching ESPN the other day, and Sam Acho, who was an All-American at Texas, has picked Clemson to win the national championship, right? Picked them to beat Texas and go all the way. I mean, none of that matters. What matters is getting the opportunity to participate and play and compete on the field. And once you have that opportunity, anything can happen. And that's what's great about a playoff. I think this 12-team playoff has created such fan avidity that, we started as the second most favorite sport in the country behind the NFL. But, college football's viewership has increased. The attendance has increased because now we have more schools, more teams, more universities in the hunt for those 12 spots all the way through December, the beginning of December. And so, you know, viewership has increased. The interest has increased, both attendance wise and viewership. That's good for college football.
Well, and that's something that gets lost. And even Kenny talked a little bit about this on, what he sees with ASU moving forward. It creates an opportunity for more blue bloods. I mean, look at Clemson when the playoffs expanded to four. All of a sudden, they became more of a blue blood. They really rose from the ashes. Now at 12, a program like an Arizona State, they get on this map, whether they win or don't. The recruiting in this landscape now gets better. The national brand gets better. So there are programs that have an opportunity now to become one of those blue blood programs. So it gives rise to new things. And I think that really is the coolest thing. Is that something that you're kind of seeing early on here too?
Yeah, no, it's a great point, Jordan. I take it another way as well. I really hate that the Pac-12 met its demise,
Hmm.
because if it would have held on one more year and having this 12-team playoff, there would have been more access for Pac-12 teams to get in. Once they get in, now you don't have Stroud and Ungulea and Bryce Young, all West Coast kids, coming east, because the Clemson and Alabamas and Ohio States are those blue bloods who have been in the playoffs, right? They would have stayed out west and gone to Arizona State or UCLA or USC or Oregon or whatever if the Pac-10 was still available. And that's one of the things that I hate that's happened. That it met its demise. And ironically enough, you look at Oregon and Arizona State, two Pac-12 teams who have won the Big Ten and the Big 12. So a
Hmm.
great statement for the old Pac-12, which it's great history of athletics and championships. It's just a shame. I know Bill Walton is rolling over in his grave with, unfortunately, the demise, but I know he's smiling that Arizona State and Oregon have held the Conference of Champions up through this college football season.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely true. And if this format was in last year, you would have had at least two Pac-12 teams, and Oregon and Washington would have been in
Exactly
for
right.
last year. So
Exactly right.
the opportunities and scale are there. I guess last thing really before I get at you here, actually two things. One more college football related, one towards the Peach Bowl. Aside from Clemson, Texas, what first round games do you have your eye on that you're just genuinely interested in?
Well, really, all four, including Clemson, Texas. I have friends that coach all those teams. And so I don't root for programs. I'm a North Carolina State grad, so I root for North Carolina State. But I root for friends and want them to do well. And I want college football to do well. I want it to thrive because it's so important to young people to give them an opportunity to get a scholarship, and B, the opportunity to get a degree, and then hopefully a job. I'm disappointed in the way college athletics has moved and is moving, but it's a reality. I got $15 laundry money when I played back in college every month. Um, it's just we have to maintain the mission of college athletics, which is number one, give a kid an opportunity for a scholarship. And then secondly, give them the opportunity to get a degree and get the degree because 98% of these kids, whether it's football, basketball, volleyball, baseball, whatever it is, they're not going to play pro. And so after their college career is over, they need to get a job and be a valuable member of society and give something back to society. And I think we're starting to lose that. We're starting to miss that a little bit, and it's all about the money. And that's, we got to get back to our center and back to our mission of, getting kids scholarships, getting them degrees instead of pay for play. It's, hey, let's make sure you get your degree. I worry about these kids that are transferring. Sure, they should have the right to transfer, but want to make sure it's transfer and they get a degree. Play. They should be there. All these alumni should be there to give all these 98% of these kids that aren't going to go pro, give them jobs. That's what we should be doing in college athletics.
Yeah, I agree. I think that those conversations at least need to be happening more often. And there are certain coaching staffs that really focus on that. People can say what they want. With Deion Sanders, he's very focused on get your degree, get your degree. There's obviously a lot of other things on the table there, but that was well said. I appreciate you sharing that.
Sure.
Last thing. So I don't know if there's any ASU fans. Maybe there'll be some that were there in 1970, and obviously it's a much different world now. But what should ASU fans that are on the fence about coming or are already booked to come and watch the game, what should they expect, and maybe what are some of the experiences or opportunities they have there?
Well, we're known by a lot of the people in this country as the capital of college football, and not only for the great games we put on, like the Aflac kickoff games, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. We'll host the national championship game on January 20th this year. Next year, we'll host the CFP semifinal game. So basically, within a calendar year, we will have hosted all three of the major events of the CFP with a quarterfinal, a national championship, and a semifinal in Atlanta. But the College Football Hall of Fame, there's only one of them, and it exists in Atlanta. It's a must see for people that are coming from Arizona State fans to Atlanta. We have the world's largest aquarium, which is another must do and must see. There's the Civil Rights Move Center. There's the World of Coke. These are all downtown within walking distance of each other. So a lot of things to, and if you're staying downtown, which most people should, we have 16,000 hotel rooms in the middle of downtown that are within walking distance of all those um, places that I just mentioned, as well as walking distance to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So restaurants are fantastic in Atlanta. So people will have a great time, and they'll be ready for a great game. We'll have our Fan Fest from 8 to 12, which will probably, on average, we get about 35,000 people go through our Fan Fest, which is a unique experience to get them fired up and ready for the game. And then, we'll kick off at 1:10 Eastern time, in the CFP 12-team playoff quarterfinal.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It's fun here in the Valley to have a team making their mark here and being in the first 12-team playoffs. So we're excited to see how this plays out. Gary, thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed being with you, Jordan. Merry Christmas to you and everybody out there in the Valley.
Right back at you. Enjoy your colder temperatures. We'll try to enjoy our sun.
There you go. Thanks a lot.